All right, Mark, let's dig in.
All right.
Welcome back to Keys and Gears. You're on the dock again. Another week, another series of questions.
What are we
Interest
covering
rates, they
today?
continue to be in people's minds.
Yes.
They're tired of renting. They're tired of whatever it might be. But
Right.
dadgummit, the interest rate seems to continue to hover around
Si-
7%.
6 to 7% is kind of where we've been. Yeah.
But what's remarkable right now, I'm excited for consumers that are becoming more aware of all these things, which means greatness. They're looking at Instagram, they're following you,
Right.
they're seeing the different things. There's a difference in interest rates between the different finance tools,
Yes.
FHA, conventional.
Right. Yes.
So, how
You
do
want to
you?
dig into that?
Let's dig
Okay.
into that. Let's talk about that. Why is there a difference in?
If you don't mind, let's take a little detour away from that and get back to it.
Okay,
First,
bring it.
first thing, and we've talked about this before, but bears repeating here because you may not have seen those episodes. Keep your eye on the ball. If you need to buy a house, if you're currently renting, if you need to buy a house, no matter what the rate is. I can show you the comparison, what it would cost you to wait
Mm.
and not buy, continue renting, what it will cost you to wait to buy the next bigger house if you currently own a house, even at a higher interest rate. I can show you buy versus rent comparisons. So comparing to your current situation to owning a house, what does that look like financially? Are you better off buying right now or waiting? And I can tell you in almost 9 out of 10 times, buy,
Hmm.
no matter what the rate is. That's point number one. So point number two is um, there are a lot of loan products out there. I have over 100 banks I can shop around. They all have their own products. There's a myriad of products.
And that's because you're independent. You're not
I'm a
attached to
Correct. I'm not
a
beholden to
particular.
one bank. I'm a broker, so I broker the transaction between customer and bank. And
So not too dissimilar from like an independent insurance broker
correct,
versus State Farm agent or
correct.
farmer's agent.
A good comparison. Yeah. So with that being said, uh, to get there's two variables that make a difference. One is fees, upfront fees, and one is rate. Okay, so those two metrics are like squeezing a balloon. If you want lower fees, typically you have higher rates. If you want lower rates, you have higher fees. That's how most lenders operate. Now there's so you have to balance how much you're squeezing each side. Okay. Now, when it comes to the lowest rates, sometimes rates, first of all, are very dependent on your personal credit picture. Okay, so you take 10 people in a room, 10 people will get 10 different rates
For the same house.
for the same rate, for the same exact house, same area, whatever, but 10 people will get 10 different rates. Uh, and so an FHA, for example, let's take an FHA loan, typically the interest rate is lower than a conventional rate. Conventional mortgages are what most people get, right? FHA in the past has been called a first buyer home loan program. I don't like that. I think FHA applies to a lot of different people. Even worse, FHA has gotten, for some reason, and especially unfortunately in real estate professional circles, as the scratch and dent loan, right? As in people with bad credit and no money get an FHA loan. Also not true. Uh, so if that's what you're thinking when you hear FHA loan, put that out of your head.
Just erase
Please.
that.
If you're a
Erase
real
that.
estate agent listening right now, please stop. Okay.
Especially since right now, I mean, not to jump. Well, I will jump. I will. Won't even about. FHA is consistently a lower interest rate
Right.
than conventional,
Right.
so it might be actually a smart financial play.
But it gets more complicated because, as always, uh, the FHA rate may be lower, but you also having to pay insurance, mortgage insurance into FHA. And the way FHA works is you pay a premium into an FHA coffer and then a monthly payment into the coffer that protects the lender through FHA, buys insurance in case you don't pay your mortgage. So you're paying for other people's mistakes through that mortgage insurance. So the question becomes, if you compare that to conventional mortgage with also with mortgage insurance because you didn't put 20% down, which one is the better deal? The conventional may have a higher interest rate, but much lower mortgage insurance versus the lower interest rate on an FHA with higher mortgage insurance,
In the
or vice
conventional,
versa.
the mortgage insurance drops. FHA mortgage
Is on it
insurance is for
permanently.
the life of the
Yes.
loan.
FHA mortgage insurance never comes off unless you refinance into conventional mortgage.
And I would like to put in my 2 cents on the word insurance.
Right.
It drives me nutso. I
Right.
think it's wrong. I think when
How
they
so?
rewrote the rules and came up with this whole PMI, private
Yes.
mortgage insurance
Yes.
deal, they refused to say call it what it is. It's a tax. It's a loan tax,
Hmm.
in my humble opinion. Why? Because in my head, insurance is we pay ahead in time of emergency.
Right. Right.
Uh, Private mortgage insurance, for most of us, we'd interpret a mortgage emergency as everybody lost a job and we all had sudden catastrophes and we can't
Right.
afford to pay for our mortgage.
Hmm.
To me, that would be defined as a mortgage emergency.
Right.
But we don't get to call in that policy for our
Fair,
benefit.
fair point.
The bank, the lender,
Right.
whoever owns the loan,
Right.
gets to call it in for
Right.
their benefit.
Right.
So to me, a tax is something that goes out of our pocket,
Hmm.
never to be seen again.
Right. But
And so that is where I have,
I 100% get your
just
point.
as a plebeian, that's my
Understand that it's not an insurance policy for the buyer, for the owner. It's the insurance policy is written to the lender. The lender is the insured person, not the buyer. So that's where you know I think when you explain mortgage insurance to people, you as a lender you need to explain it to them. What does it do? Because they get confused a lot of times with their homeowners insurance and things like that. And so I
well, it's the
try to
same word.
explain it up front that this insurance
Mhm.
has nothing to do with you, has everything to do with the lender. And by the way, mortgages with mortgage insurance on them oftentimes have a slightly lower interest rate than mortgages without insurance for obvious reasons, right? I mean, if
Interesting.
the lender is insured,
Less risk.
less risk. The higher the risk, the higher the rate.
Mhm.
So the worse your credit score, the higher risk you are to a lender, the higher your rate. If you don't have insurance, mortgage insurance, the rate's higher. Oftentimes not by anything meaningful, but it's
Mhm.
higher. So
Mhm.
FHA is a great product for people who don't want to put all their money into a house, which a lot of times in today's market, that's where people are. They don't want to put all their cash into the house. They still want to have cash for travel and for fun and for
Mhm.
outfitting the house and doing things to the house, right?
Mhm.
So when it comes to low down payment options, FHA oftentimes is the better deal. The caveat to that is if your credit score is really stellar, it probably isn't. You're better off doing a low down payment conventional loan than an FHA loan. So
Ah,
for low credit score, FHA is probably always going to be your best deal. For a good credit score, you really have to look at the two, the difference in payment and what does that do. Are you in the house for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What do you want to do? Because that figures into the equation also with this. So
so so once again, you are closing out your excellent description by saying financial tools are really curated
yes,
to you,
they're
the
tailored.
consumer.
I do a customized mortgage. When I work with people, they have a customized mortgage plan personal to them because it no
Doing
one
it any
size
other
fits
way
all.
sounds
No,
expensive.
it it,
There's no
it
blanket
doesn't it
answer.
doesn't it's yeah. You make a lot of mistakes if you just say, I've had people who said, my parents told me I have to put 20% down. I have to. And once I do the math for them, what does 10% look like? So you can do stuff with the house versus 15% versus 20%.
Mhm.
Uh, they a lot of times will go with 10% down
Mhm.
because it makes no big difference to it. And besides that, it makes no difference to me which one they pick. I just want people to have the options up front and understand the choices they make, and not just go with, here's what I've been told to do. Because times change, things change. You
Times
may need your
change.
money for other things, right? So it
Mhm.
becomes a question of what else do you want? I had a customer the other day. She wants to buy a car in the next 2 years. I said, okay, let's put some money aside for that. So you don't have an 8% car payment.
Mhm.
Put less money down on your house, save you that money, and buy yourself a car with cash. Do yourself a favor. So it goes further than FHA conventional. Which one should we go? Goes
Mhm.
much further than that. Anyway, we can go on. What's the pictures of the week this
Well,
week?
okay. So, to wall or not to wall?
Oh my,
That was this
yeah,
family's question.
I've never
They
been a fan of
decided
these these
they
types of.
decided to go
I've seen these a million times.
down the
Yes,
middle.
yes,
Yeah. So those are actual porch posts
yes,
um,
yes.
that have been used.
Do you
They
think that wall used to just be closed and had an opening, or do you
so
think this was original?
no, not original. It used to be garage.
Oh my, that was a garage.
It used to be garage.
Wow.
Yes. And the floor is up because they pulled in some plumbing. So they put the
Yeah.
plumbing
So they
that's
raised the
under there.
floor
Yeah.
to pull the plumbing in.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Mhm. Uh
That's actually pretty clever, but
yeah, so if
not a
you go
fan
out
of.
that door,
Mhm.
there is like a just a garage storage area and then your double door
Wow.
out to the back,
Wow.
out to the back.
People are creative. I just don't like the posts. I don't know. Not my thing.
Right? Just a very interesting
And they did that for
solution
structural reasons, or why did they do that, do you think?
for structural reasons for
Okay.
sure. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. I just thought everybody's talking about it's spring. We're recording this in the spring,
Yes.
and it seems like remodel fever
Yeah.
always
Oh yeah.
strikes.
What are we doing with the house this year, honey?
Always
Where are we going?
strikes. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
we have a 2 for 1.
Oh, there
We
you
have
go.
two
Yeah, yeah.
pictures.
Okay, and so
Okay.
this is interesting because this is uh, I wanted to show off this family's update. So that lantern, so that planter, when it was built with this home in the 60s, it did in fact have a light. Okay, the light stopped
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is this family took the time to think about the lantern that they replaced it with. And so that is a brand new lantern. But in my humble
It goes
opinion,
with the
y'all may or may
period.
not agree.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
complementary.
Yeah.
It's congruent with the
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
And so that is a very good example of modernizing but not minimizing the heritage that you have.
Not.
Yeah, all of us have walked into a house and you're like, ah, there's just something off. And usually it's because they've modernized it by bringing something that was incongruent with the style that's already there.
Yeah. Style matching one style to another is not an easy thing to do to get it right. So yeah, I
Mhm.
100%
Well,
agree.
I'm always, that's a
Yeah.
different conversation, but I'm always like, let's not match, but let's not fight,
Right. Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
right?
Yes.
Because we can't match. Anyway,
A
there
lot
you
of
go.
times.
So,
Well,
we've already whiled away another time
yes.
together. Keys
You,
and gears. Here we are.
golly, time flies. Well, thanks again for joining us. Join us next time. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell so you get notified when a new episode comes out. Hopefully, we taught you something new today, and reach out to us if you
That's
have
what we're here
any
for.
questions. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.